Classes should be pretty interesting today. We're finally going to talk about the thing that everybody wonders about more than just about anything else in the Bible, which is the mark of the beast and the meaning of 666. Been all kinds of ideas expressed about what this is. And in Revelation 13, 16 through 17, it says this: "And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might be able to buy or sell, save he have the mark of the beast, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." So the reason we talked in the past about this blind obedience that the beast expects, and the reason it's called a beast is because he's bringing out the beast in us. We have two natures, and the lower nature is associated with the animal kingdom, and the higher nature is associated with the soul, and in between we have man, which is kind of reaching up to the soul spirit and yet controlled by the appetites of the beast. And so what the beast does for mankind is it keeps us centered in the animal nature. And a good animal, you train it and it does what it's told and doesn't question anything. And this is what the beast does to humanity. It programs us, and in such a way that we respond to authorities that's put in place to take the place of God and to keep us centered in the lower nature. Now it tells us here that he causes all to receive the mark. Who is it that is causing people to receive the mark? In Revelations 13, we're talking about the beast, and then the beast had one of its heads wounded, and there's an image to the beast made with two horns like a lamb, yet speaks as the dragon. We associated that with the United States. The two horns like a lamb, or the one horn represents a Christ consciousness, and the political system represented by the Constitution and the freedoms of the Bill of Rights. That's one of the horns like a lamb. And the other was the manifestation of many spiritual teachings that have been manifested in the United States, from Mormonism to Science of the Mind to Theosophy, Alice A. Bailey, Course in Miracles. All these things came in the United States, and that represents the spiritual horn. So the spiritual and the material horn representing the two horns like a lamb, yet it winds up speaking as the dragon. In other words, there's a lot of interesting and Christ-like things introduced in this country that then are corrupted. So by the time they're put in practice and a generation or so passes, and instead of representing the Christ consciousness, they're controlled by the dragon, which happens again and again. And so the beast makes an image of itself, and the image of itself is represented in the United States, which has financed all the tyrannies throughout the world. We financed the Soviet Union. Soviet Union would not have manifested or stayed in power without us. Even after it stayed in power, we supplied it with goods and services and money to keep it propped up. until it finally fell. And then after it falls, we did the same thing with China. We we have actually financed the Chinese Empire. And even North Korea, when they start to fall apart, we've financed them. We give them nuclear. In the 90s, we told them, well, we're going to give you these, we'll help you produce nuclear energy if you promise to just use it for good and help your people. And they said, sure, we'll do that. And then so anyway, this second beast and the people that the nations that it is propped up, and not only the nations, but the influences like the medical and legal systems and the bureaucracies are all receive a lot of life-giving energy and financing from the United States, which at its core has two horns like a lamb, yet its actions represent the dragon in many ways, in the fact that it has supported the authority of the beast.
Hey, JJ,
Yeah,
just as a side note, they did a play, and then they made it into a movie called The Mouse That Roared. You
yeah,
familiar with that?
a great idea.
That that's exactly what you're talking about there. I was in that play in high school, and I was Count Montjoy, and but they were at this tiny little country, and they couldn't figure out how to make it work because they were going more and more in debt, and they couldn't take care of their people. So they decided to declare war on America, and so that they would declare war. Count Montjoy was sent over there in this tiny boat with like 5 or 6 soldiers to
But the
declare
reason they
war.
declared war was kind of funny because they say if you lose the war of the United States, then the United States gives you a whole bunch of money to
Yeah,
rebuild.
and rebuild your
So
country for you.
the idea was declare war against the
Uh,
United States and lose, and then they'd get a bunch of money from the United
that
States.
was that was my part in the play. I was Count Montjoy, and we went over there with swords and spears and stuff to declare war on America. So we would lose the first day, and then they'd rebuild our country. Anyway,
Yeah. So and anyway, the United States was alarmed at that. And saw them as a much bigger threat than they saw them as a big threat when they weren't a threat at all. It was kind of a funny idea, starring Peter Sellers. But they ought to do a remake of that. I think the movie could have been made, so it could have been a lot bigger seller than it was. But the idea was really cute. But okay, so anyway, this image of the beast, which is basically the United States, and all the tentacles that we have supported throughout the entire world, that causes us to uh, deviate from the two horns. And instead of seeing the Christ consciousness and going within, to shift our focus to authorities without that tell us what to do. And it causes all to receive. Now, when it says all, that all can be uh, in the Greek word can mean a selection from all, or it can mean all. It can be interpreted two different ways. So it's possible not everyone will receive the mark, as indicated in the next chapter. But anyway, he causes all to receive a mark in the right hand and the foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he have the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So, what is a mark? What do most people think the mark is going to be?
a microchip implanted in your hand.
Yeah.
or a barcode of some kind tattooed on your hand. That's what most people think.
Yeah, there's apparently the number 666 shows up in the barcode, and so a lot of people thought the barcode was going to be it. We'd have a barcode on our hand, but that's kind of given way now to a computer chip. Now, it's possible we could receive some actual mark. That's not beyond the realm of possibilities. With the brain implants now, they can put a chip in your brain. So that would be that could be a mark in your forehead physically, or a chip in your hand to be able to buy or sell, so they could scan your forehead or your right hand. I when I wrote this, the chip in the brain wasn't developed yet, but it is pretty much now. They're putting computer chips in the brain. And what Musk is doing with that is he's helping the paraplegic people to be able to function and be able to, they can read their minds so that they can have words appear on a computer screen and stuff like that. And people they do it with are really excited about it. And he thinks that he can provide chips to help people that are walk again and different things like this. So this technology can be used for a lot of good, but just like all technology, it could be used for evil, just like AI. AI could be really a big benefit for humanity if it's programmed right. If it's programmed wrong, it could wind up being a tyrant for us if it seeks to control us. So any new technology that's developed has a dual edge to it. It can be used for good or evil. But what people are expecting, they're always expecting everything in the book of Revelations to happen in the future, and it's all happened already. People have already received a mark in the right hand and in their forehead. How they received a mark in the right hand, what does that mean?
Pay
Through our
taxes,
labors.
Right. Right hand signifies labors. And the forehead signifies what?
thought.
Thought. And this is what the powers that be seek control over, is your actions, your labor, and your thinking. And if it controls your thinking, it also controls your actions. So the thinking is very important. But if it controls your actions, then it really limits your thinking. They're both interconnected. So this, to receive the mark in the right hand then, is everybody's waiting for some implant to go in the right hand. And what's interesting about that is probably the greatest representative of the beast in our history was Hitler. And he put a mark on the Jews that were in the concentration camps. And where did he put the mark on them?
On the
hand.
left hand.
Yeah, on the left hand.
Not only on the Jews, on all prisoners in the camps.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, he put a mark on the prisoners on the left hand. Why do you suppose he chose the left hand?
Because he knew the revelation, and you don't want people to associate it with that.
Right. So Hitler just, I'm sure, was familiar with that revelation about the beast, and he didn't want to be associated with the beast. So he says, "Well, I need to put a mark on these guys, but if I put it on the right hand, some people will think associate me with the beast." So he put it on the left hand. So did that mean that Hitler wasn't part of the beast because he used the left hand instead of the right?
He was truly part of the beast because of the action and the control of actions and thoughts.
Right. He he symbolically still had a mark on the right hand because the right hand is symbolic of labor and action, and he controlled people's labor and actions, and he sought also to control their minds and what they think. If you didn't go along with the program, well, then you were in trouble of being in some type of internment camp or in danger of your life. So he definitely used the mark of the beast on the right hand and the forehead. Now, the mark of the beast is very subtle. People think that are looking forward to some mark in the future, and they already have the mark. But it says no man can buy or sell unless he have this mark. Well, how does that happen? How can we not buy or sell unless we have the mark? What do you think about that?
You have to go within, you have to work within the system that they've set up.
Right.
You pay taxes, you do their regulations, you're in their system.
Right. We're all in the system where our actions are controlled and our thoughts are controlled to a great extent. Now, if you're working for some major business, you have to conform your actions and your thoughts to that business if you're going to stay employed. So now, if you try to escape this control by working for yourself, you still have to get a business license and conform and pay taxes. And so you can't escape all the controls by the outward authorities. And in the kingdom of God, they don't have all these controls. It's like Joseph Smith probably expressed it best. He says, I teach them correct principles and let them govern themselves. And that's the principle of escaping the beast. Mm-hmm. Yet, in this system that we're in right here, it doesn't matter how much you try to escape it, you can't govern yourself completely. And they're trying to, like even with vaccines, they're trying to make it so everybody's got to take the vaccines that they think we need to take and so on. And there's everybody has to pay, many people pay more taxes than they want to pay, than they think is fair. We have all kinds of laws that we have to obey. And another interesting thing that's stated in the scriptures is they will have the Christ says, no, they will have no laws but my laws when I come. And Course in Miracles says something different. It's not speaking about the coming of Christ, but it speaks of those that are on the right path will have no laws but the laws of Christ. And that's the key to escaping from the beast. So basically, all of us to some degree are under the control of what we would call the system. And the system is a voice that is, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Does not represent the inner voice of God that speaks to the disciple. So the inner voice that you receive will often be in opposition to the outer voice of the system that is always telling you what to do, how to educate your children, what you can do with your children, what you can do with your medicine, what you can do with your life, what you can do with your business. And now a certain amount of this structure is necessary, but what happens with the deadly wound being healed, as is talked about in Revelation, is that we have much more control out there than is necessary. And we have thousands of new laws and regulations passed every year. And there's so many that if they decide they want to go after almost anybody, they can go after them and put them in prison or give them fines or destroy their lives, because there's so many different laws and regulations that sometimes they'll resurrect an old law that's 100 years old that nobody's been prosecuted, but if they want to go after somebody, they will take that old law and go after them. And so if the beast wants to go after you, it could give Mother Teresa a big problem if it if it wanted to really go after you. So it's interesting, the mark in the right hand or the forehead is much different than people think. People think that's going to be in the future sometime, but it's been in existence since the beginning of civilization. The people are the powers that be seek to control the actions and the thought of the people. And so how do you escape that? How do you escape being controlled completely?
It goes back to your comments on Adam and Eve, and you know, now if they eat of the apple, then they'll know good from evil and be like us. It goes back to taking the teachings that you've taught us, and with soul contact, learning how to perceive the illusion from the real, and navigating our way through this life.
Yeah, kind of the key is in that saying, be in the world, but not of the world. We have to be in the world, and there's no way to escape the authorities out there that seek to manipulate us and control our lives and to be a voice to us. You have to cooperate to a certain degree to be able to survive, but basically the disciple will seek to be controlled by the inner and just ignore the outer as much as humanly possible, and always go by the inner with his major decisions.
So if you have released your inner pain and things like the lower self and integrated within you, then you can't get controlled, can you?
You can't what?
Then you can't be controlled.
Oh yeah, right. You can't. To a certain extent, like say, there's really no way to avoid paying taxes, but they can't control your thoughts. And this is what the disciple, first of all, he has to get control of his thoughts. Now, some of his actions have to conform to the beast, because like say we have to pay our taxes, or we have to go a certain speed limit and different things, like all the regulations, send our kids to school, maybe, whatever. But in some cases, maybe even get vaccines, but they can't control your thoughts. Your thoughts is something the disciple has complete control over if he decides to subject his thoughts to the soul. And then his actions will be minimized toward the beast. So he only has to cooperate as much as necessary to survive in this world. And but his basic actions and thoughts will be under the direction of the soul. That's the goal there.
It reminds me of this statement from the affirmation of the disciple: tread this way the ways of men, but know the ways of God.
Yeah, that's a good quote. Okay, now we'll move on to the 666, perhaps the most mysterious verse in the whole Bible. Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and the number is 666. If we read this literally, it says, here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding or knowingness count the number of the beast, for it is the number of humanity. Okay, it's not necessarily a man. It can be translated both ways, a man, or it could be translated humanity. The number of humanity, and its number is 600 plus 60 plus 6. Okay, basically is what it's saying there. So what's interesting about this is that the beast, this 666 is associated with the beast, and but it's more than the 666. In verse 17, it says this: that no man might buy or sell save he have the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So in order to buy or sell, it's not necessarily just the mark. You can have the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Any of those three things. Okay. The mark is symbolic of a belief and acceptance of letting your actions conform to the beast and your thoughts conform to the beast. But who are the ones that have the name of the beast? The ones with the name and the beast, I submit, are the bureaucrats of the earth. If you're an accepted bureaucrat, you are accepted by the beast, and you won't have any problem buying and selling and living within the system. You are part of the system. So the bureaucrats are the ones with the name of the beast, and they have no problem functioning within the system. And the third are the people that have the number of his name. Okay, so this is where we explore the number of the beast. Those who have the number of the beast are within the system, and they function well. They have no problem being persecuted by the beast. So they have three groups that have no problem being persecuted by the beast. If you receive the mark, if you have the name of the beast and are a good bureaucrat, and if you have the name of the beast, or the number of the beast, which is 666. So it's not only the beast itself that has the number, it is the people have the number of the beast. So everybody's looking for a great dictator like that makes Hitler look like Mother Teresa. He's going to be so bad, and he's going to have maybe 666 tattooed somewhere on his body or something like that, like in the movie. So they're looking for something like this, but the 666, it says, will be on those, that will give them power to be able to freely buy and sell and function within the system. So it's not only some great leader that will have the 666, but those that operate freely within the system with no resistance and have no problem with it. Okay. So the interesting thing about sixes, notice there are 3 sixes. What in particular makes the 6 such a significant number in the past couple thousand years?
Sixth ray of devotion, idealism,
Right. And what age are we passing out of?
the Piscean,
And what ray is it governed by?
the sixth ray, I'm guessing.
Right. And it's governed by the sixth ray. And most of you here are familiar with the seven rays as explained by DK. And the sixth ray was represented by Jesus, and it represents the ideal in idealism. So Jesus came and he presented to the world the image of the ideal man. And it also represents the emotional energy. Okay. So there was a lot of, with idealism, you have people looking upon an ideal and feeling strong emotions over it, especially the lower emotions are very strongly stimulated by an ideal. And throughout the whole Piscean age, all these different wars and conflicts were over fighting for the ideal. Both sides have an ideal that they think is the right one, and they're fighting to destroy the other side that has an ideal they do not like. And so what Jesus did was the disciple Jesus was on the sixth ray, which represents idealism. And he presented the ideal man to the human race. And that was a good thing. But then what the beast did is it began to, first of all, it persecuted all the Christians, tried to destroy them, couldn't destroy them. So then beginning mainly with Constantine, the Roman Empire figured, well, we can't beat them, so we join them. And this happens when a great work is not able to be destroyed or completely suppressed. Then if you can't beat them, you join them, is the theme of the beast. So instead of when the powers that be realized they couldn't destroy Christianity, they joined it and then altered it and made it part of the system. So anyone that had ideas that was contrary to what they solidified as the basic teachings, they were then persecuted and imprisoned and burned at the stake, fed to the lions, whatever. So it's interesting how that works.
Well, and to add to that is without, you know, I'm not intending to be offensive, but Hitler's close association with the Catholic Church, it just seemed like if he was successful with his, he was working in conjunction in some areas with the Catholic Church, and it seems like he was setting them up to be the new maybe world religion, so that because he would have been in control of them, which is what most tyrants do. They seek to be in control of the government system and the religious system so they can have full control over the people. But it looked like that's what he was trying to do with the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is everybody's waiting for the 666 to manifest, and it's already been here all along, for even before Christ showed up. But it's been particularly powerful during the Piscean age, because the Piscean age is governed by the sixth ray, or the number 6 itself. So as we're entering now into the Aquarian age, we're taking the best of the Piscean age and dropping, moving away from that idealism represented by the sixth ray. And so we have the powers that be fighting for their life to keep that system in play. Now, when we move to the Aquarian age, we won't be completely free from the 666, but we will be much more free than we are now. There's always that outer God seeking to reorganize around to keep its power when humanity steps up. So why are there 3 6s? What do the 3 6s represent? We have the ideal, and the 6 represents control over the ideal and the lower emotions. And the lower emotions are closely associated with the animal kingdom, the higher emotions very closely associated with the spiritual kingdom. But the solar plexus center, which controls the lower emotions, is controlled by what ray? The 6th ray. So the 6th ray just is paramount in a lot of different things. It's paramount in the Piscean age that we're trying to move away from. And it's paramount in the solar plexus energy center, which controls the lower emotions. So the 3 6s stand for the control of the beast through the lower emotions on 3 planes: the physical, the emotional, and the mind. Those 3, the 3 6s represent the physical, the emotions, and the mind. The beast seeks control over those 3 areas through the center of power, which is the emotional energy itself. And what's interesting about that is we can say, well, how can it control the mind through the emotions? The mind is very much controlled through the emotions. And you can tell this with intelligent people you see that come up with really strange things that they believe in. Like you can talk to, say, a religious person that's also studied science. You talk to him about quarks and atoms and atomic energy or whatever, and he may be very knowledgeable. He may sound brilliant. He may come up with a lot of concepts that sound great, but then you talk about something like on the spiritual level, he may find a devil under every rock. He may think the earth was evolved in just 6,000 years. And he may be completely controlled by his feelings. So to the extent that when things are in harmony with his feelings, he can be very educated, very logical. But then when his feelings take over, that his feelings are that the Bible is 100% true or whatever, literally, then that causes him to revert to this outer authority that produces the mark of the beast and controls his mind. Same thing with politics, for instance. You may have a very intelligent person support spending a ton of money on a pet project because he feels good about it. So we may have a representative in Congress. We send him to Congress and we think, boy, this guy is very intelligent and he'll do the right thing. But when he gets there, he may support borrowing $1 trillion and running up a credit card. Now, that's entirely not logical. This is where the beast controls his mind. Now, let's suppose that Scott here, I see Scott's image on my screen here. Let's suppose somebody give you a credit card for $100,000 and you think, well, you know, I can just extend, I can live quite a bit on this, just so I can quit work and just live on this credit card. Okay, so you borrow enough money to live on for a year, and then pretty soon you have to you have the interest accumulate. Instead of paying off the principal, you just keep borrowing, and pretty soon the interest is more than you can handle, and you wind up having to go bankrupt because of that. Now the average person, if he got a credit card that big, and all of us have some credit cards, we realize that we have to be responsible, that if we borrow the money, there's going to be interest accumulating, and we have to be responsible for this. But we send people to Congress, that thinking just goes out the window. The United States has a giant credit card. We're borrowing on it. And right now, you know how much interest we pay every year, the United States? $1 trillion. Now, think of what we could do with an extra trillion a year. You know what we could do with an extra trillion a year? We could give every homeless person in the United States $10 million. So homelessness could not only be evaporated, people would be lining up to claim they're homeless so they could get the 10 million.
Even that would be a temporary solution.
Right. Now, there's 38 million people in poverty in the United States. Okay. So we could give each family of two that's in poverty $50,000, and they're already making about $20,000, so they would have $70,000. So we could totally, if we had that extra $1 trillion that we're paying on interest because we borrowing this money, we could totally eliminate poverty and make everybody that's in poverty very comfortable. They'd have each family of two would have $70,000. Each family of three would have about $90,000. How many is in your family, Adam?
We got, well, 8 if you include my
Oh yeah, you'd have about
son-in-law.
You'd have over 150,000. Could you handle? Could you kind of relax on that then?
Why are you promoting socialism, JJ?
I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying what can be done with if we just had that extra trillion and we just threw it somewhere. This is
one place that wouldn't be socialism would be they'd be able to stop taxing people who are 50 years or older, which is just a common sense thing to do, you know, to improve. If you've worked the first 50 years of your life, you're not retired yet, but, you know, getting up to, I don't understand why they tax people until they're dead. You know, there should be a break-off point so that you can use that money just to take care of yourself, as opposed to continuing to give it to the government until you're dead. But anyway, that would be one way to use it a little bit.
But my point in all this is now the average person with a credit card understands the responsibility, but the beast doesn't want us to be able to understand the responsibility we have within the system of the beast itself. It wants complete control. So it takes away people's thinking process about this. So we just keep borrowing this money and not thinking about the repercussions. It already has repercussions of taking $1 trillion a year away from us. And if there's only a certain amount of time left before we have to pay the piper, and we haven't paid anything on the principal of the national debt for way over 50 years. So we're just paying the interest. And the time will come when we won't even be able to pay the interest. And then that will be a great crisis if we let that happen. Yet nobody's thinking about it, because a bill comes up where we spend an extra $1 trillion and have to pay a whole bunch more interest. They don't think about that. They just think, well, this is like free money. Let's just take this money and think all the good we can do if we borrow this extra money. And that's the way they think. And so the beast has taken away their power of their thought and controlled our Congress on both sides to a large degree.
You started this little segment here by talking about how they control people's emotions to do that, and you can see they do. So everything you've just said is, when they start talking about giving away money, or doing whatever, it sparks emotion. And the different government systems of the world are masters at manipulating emotions, but they're not as good as the religions. The religions of the world, they can manipulate emotions, because when they manipulate emotions, then they tell you that's the spirit. They manipulate your emotions to one point, and then they say, now you're feeling the spirit, when your emotions are being manipulated. And then they say, this is a confirmation that our church is true. And that is a shitty thing to do to people right there. It is. Yeah. It should be a huge red flag, and you start running the opposite direction.
Okay, we run out of time, my friends, but we'll continue talking about the 666, a few things on it, and then those that escape the 666 next week. And I think you'll find it interesting.